Well, hello everybody, welcome back to Four Lights Wellness. My name is Omid. If your mid-back gets tight and restricted and can't rotate, it can lead to a lot of problems. Obviously, lower back sacrum, SI joint, pain, sciatica stuff because that lower spine is doing too much movement. Or it could lead to a lot of chronic rotator cuff injuries because that shoulder keeps rounding forward instead of the mid-back rotating. It could lead to neck stuff, jaw stuff, you name it. So this is a really, really important skill to work on if you're having any of those types of problems. But I have a couple of different things that I like to use for this, but the reason I like a 4-inch roller is because it tells me if the head is moving in this general direction. I want to really truly keep rotation as I'm going through here, but you can use a lot of other stuff. If this hurts your head, really anything that's roughly about 4 inches to keep that head in line with the rest of the spine, not all this banana shaping sort of stuff. You could even use little steppers. It doesn't matter. It could be a pillow. Who cares? The second thing, part of this is we're trying to create a rotation axis along that spine. So right now I'm kind of exaggerating my belly button's position here. You see this kind of U shape that's going on? This hip is up a little bit, this hip is down, my belly is locked into the ground. What I usually try to cue people to do is actually hold this up muscularly. But the other thing you can also do is just get a little rolled up towel or something like that if you're having trouble with this. And you can really help hold that spine in a nice neutral position here. The last thing I'm going to say is if the lower back is in an extended position here, the upper spine won't be the actual part of the spine that rotates. The entire spine will. So what we do is we keep our knees up right in front of the hips, knees out about 90 degrees. And what that does is it tucks the tailbone underneath just enough to keep that lower spine flexed. A flexed lower spine doesn't rotate, which we want because we really want to highlight this upper spine and rib cage rotating. Now, in a lot of circles, this move is called the Feldenkrais Shoulder and Spine Integrator. And that's okay I like that name, but I just say, hey, we're going to rotate the mid-back. Here's the first level of this exercise. I'm going to take my fingertips and I'm just going to put them right across my forehead to touch the opposite temple. The reason we're doing this, the position of the shoulder kind of floating back and down into here really stops the shoulder from being the main mover, and it really starts to get the ribs being the main driver here. The other hand is just kind of hanging out on the floor here. How we start, I'm going to take a big giant breath in, tank up to get the rib cage to expand. And then I'm going to exhale and I'm going to look backwards. I'm not going to do this. I want to turn the head as best I can on an exhale. Once you get back here, hold it for at least 1 or 2 seconds. If you want to hold it for a full breath cycle, you can and get a mild stretch. But this is an integration exercise. This is kind of a mobilization exercise. We're not going to hold this for a minute or 2 at a time. To come back forward, just take another exhale or an inhale. Either one will move. And then we reset and do it again. Inhale. And exhale and move back again. I'm going to do this from the back angle as well so you can see this. And I'm also going to do this without this little supportive roll so you can see the amount of control we really need with this. But the important thing to remember is this needs to be active. This is not a passive exercise that we just kind of go through rolling around every now and then, because what we're doing is we're trying to teach your nervous system how to do this from a place that you can do this whenever you don't want to think about it. Like, for example, walking or, opening up the refrigerator door, anything like that. So if I'm active here, I'm holding that oblique just a little tiny bit to keep my spine neutral. I'm going to take my big breath in, and I exhale and I rotate. And if I do a poor job of that and I just let that sag, now you'll see the rotation gets a little bit labored. I start to get up into the neck instead of being able to rotate back. It actually tips my head backwards through here, and it's pretty hard. So like I said, I'm going to show you on the other side so you can see my spine as we're doing this. If my legs are too low, for example, now this rotation will actually come a lot from my mid-back and my pelvis. rather than if I'm in this flexed position, now it's actually a little bit more targeted towards this rib cage upper back area that I'm really looking for. I come back, and I can get a lot of this kind of serratus stretching, intercostal stretching, mobilization of all of the ribs going through. Yeah. Last little tip I have for this, if your spine has been locked up for a while, I'm going to scoot back a little bit so you can see my legs a little bit better. What tends to happen is instead of rotation from the mid back and the ribs, this knotty knee will start to do a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to be in this position, stacked up, hand on the side of the head, and as I come back, a lot of times this tends to happen. The clamshelling starts to open up, or this knee will just straight drag backwards. That's a sign that the lower back and the pelvis have been doing this work for you for a long time. The rotation hasn't been happening from up here, and it's been happening from down here. So really be mindful of that knee. It should just be kind of relaxed. Because, like I said, this was only level 1. There's a bunch of other levels to this. So with the hand here, I don't really have to do a lot with the shoulder. Shoulder's just kind of moving with the ribs. The second level to this is I take the hands and I stack them. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to drag this hand across, hopefully not the microphone, as I go through. The ultimate goal with this is to be able to have enough rotation and not just pulling at the shoulder to get that elbow all the way to the floor. And right about here, you'll see my knotty knee starts to want to move. So that means I'm a little tight. It's not the biggest tightness I've ever had, but some people just kind of get stuck here and they'll do that instead of trying to get this rotation to happen from here. The third level is to do it from the hips. That knotty knee is now the leader. So if I have my hand right here straight, I reach this knee forward to get the lumbar to actually rotate and kind of take that pelvis posterior a little bit. I find this is a great massage for a lot of my clients that have that kind of chronic SI joint pain that goes on. But what's the rest of the spine doing? It's going into rotation. It's the same rotation I make here. I'm just making it from the bottom up instead of the top down. It's a great way to get the SI joint to release. Like I said, it's a great little massage if you've got some, piriformis things going on. The biggest thing you want to avoid is the glute activating to lift that leg. This is a kind of a push straight across. There's no lift or anything. Now, work on each of those levels by themselves to get really, really easy with all of those, because that fourth level is really neurologically complex. It's getting a little flat, which is why I like the foam roller instead. But if we're trying to do both at the exact same time, I have the hand on the hand, and I start to look backwards, dragging that hand across. Once I get to about here, I'm going to start to reach this knee forward as I go backwards. And now I'm getting that spinal rotation from the top down and the bottom up at the same time. And it really asks a lot of your nervous system to try and coordinate this. This is not about wringing out the spine to, beat it to death and trying to get it to move more. It's about your nervous system and your brain trying to get this easy. So don't attempt level 4 until you've done level 3, until you've done level 2, until you've done level 1. And the goals of these at level 1 is to try and get that shoulder almost all the way to the floor. Until eventually, when you get to level 2, that elbow can now touch the floor without that knee popping up. Level 3, we're looking for about a fist in front without a lot of this accessory motion from the rib cage. And finally, at level 4, we're looking for level 3 and 2 at the exact same time, okay? It's really important to have spinal rotation for pretty much every single thing that's going on in your body. I mean, we're not even talking about just joint stuff at this point. We're talking about digestion, transversus colon coming across. If that rotation isn't happening, you're not digesting your food well enough. The dehydration that can happen from here, the blood and oxygen actually getting up to your brain is pretty important, all of those things. So really work on this at least once a week. Unless you have symptoms, then you should be working this stuff every single day before you go to the gym, okay? That's it for this video, guys. I hope this information is very helpful to you guys. As always, have a happy and healthy rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one.